I give my introduction of the public advocate, Tish James, I would like to acknowledge the co-host for tonight's event, and that is none other than my colleague in Albany, Assemblywoman Rebecca Seawright, as well as my colleagues in government that represent the island, our illustrious Congresswoman Carolyn Maloney, as well as our hard-charging Councilmember Ben Kalos. So before I go into further remarks, I would like to give Assemblywoman Seawright the opportunity to give her hellos. Thank you. And before she begins, I just want to thank her publicly for the Red Cross event that is just concluding across the street. It was a well-attended event. Thank you very much for putting it together.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator, and thank you, Public Advocate. It's such an honor to be back on Roosevelt Island. It's a special place, and my staff and I are working daily on Roosevelt Island issues and the buildings that are coming out of the Mitchell Lama program here on the island. So for many of you who don't know me, my name is Rebecca Seawright. I was elected in November, and I have a community office, which is your office, at 1365 First Avenue between 73rd and 74th Street. We also have mobile hours here on Roosevelt Island. I have my staff at the back of the room, if you'll just raise your hand. Callie, my chief of staff, Courtney, my intern, and my counsel is, I think, across the street still at the Emergency Preparedness Center, Rebecca Brown. I passed 6 pieces of legislation this session, and 5 of those passed both the Assembly and the Senate, both houses. And one of the bills that you came to me about was the Public Purpose Fund bill. And we're just extremely honored and proud to pass that and have a commitment from the governor to sign that into law. And we fought every single day to make sure that that bill is going to pass. And I want to commend Senator Serrano for passing it in the Senate. Senator Serrano has been an invaluable mentor and support to me in my first legislative session, and his staff has just done a phenomenal job working with our staff, and appreciate so much his help and his leadership for the island as well. And I look forward to visiting with you afterwards. I'm honored to be here with the public advocate, Letitia James, who I'm such a huge fan of, and appreciate all the work she's doing. So I will now turn it back over to the Senator. Thank you all.
Thank you very much. Well, it really gives me such a great honor to be able to introduce someone who I consider to be a friend and who's been a tremendous role model to me and many other elected officials. Public advocate Tish James was born and raised in Brooklyn and continues to call the borough home. Ms. James began a career in public service, starting as a public defender in the Legal Aid Society. As a public defender with Legal Aid, Ms. James represented low-income children and families in the criminal justice system. As an Assistant Attorney General, Ms. James resolved hundreds of consumer complaints and investigated predatory lenders who prey on first-time homebuyers. She assisted the Civil Rights Bureau in its investigation of the NYPD stop and frisk policy and cracked down on firms engaged in deceptive business practices, including violations of human rights, environmental laws, and scams targeting immigrants. As a member of the New York City Council, Ms. James introduced and helped pass the Safe Housing Act, which became law in 2007. This groundbreaking bill ensured that thousands of families in rental buildings received prompt and full repairs to their apartments. Tish James was the City Council Contracts Committee Chair. She helped uncover the City Time scandal. We all know what a headache that was, and thankfully it's no more because of her work, which cost the taxpayers hundreds of millions of dollars. She also held hearings on the privatization of public service jobs and ensuring that MWB programs were working for communities across New York. She also fought to make sure mega projects like the Atlantic Yards development included affordable housing and represented a fair shake for local communities. In 2014, we all know, Tish James made history, becoming the first woman of color to be elected citywide, and she has been a tremendous public advocate. Now, from a personal note, as you all know, before I was a state senator, I was in the city council. And while I was there, Tish James was elected to the city council under some really stressful conditions because of what was going on in the institution. But she wowed all of us, and I was in such an awe of how she was elected through grassroots, populist approach. She basically came out of nowhere and did an amazing job in getting elected, which is not easy to do in the city council. And she was someone who I looked up to in the years that we were there together, because I knew if it was an issue that Tish James was involved in, I knew that it was progressive, I knew that it was good government, and I knew that it was the right thing to be a part of. So here we have one of the best elected officials that we ever had in the city council move on to be elected as our public advocate. And in her role, she's been extremely active. She's no stranger to Roosevelt Island and the issues that we have here. But she insisted on being here tonight to make sure that she can have the one-on-one dialogue with many of us to ensure that her office is responding to the many different concerns that we may have on the city level. So without further ado, it's my honor and privilege to introduce Public Advocate Tish James.